Hey, Chem 1010 students, let's talk about what's going on this week. Here we are on our eLearn homepage. Just a reminder, you can get rid of these news items after you're finished reading them by clicking the X. This comes down to my list of classes. You can always get back to them by going to the news tool, and you can see anything that you might have dismissed and restore it. And that's just a way to keep that page clean. Once you've read the notice, you might want to get rid of it. All right, I'm going into our class here. You want to pay attention to any orange dots up here. And basically what they're going to do, I've clicked on it, it's going to tell you any new things that have gone into your class. This is if you've got emails. This is if there are discussion board posts on discussion boards that you're subscribed to, and you can subscribe to them. This is our news item from last week. I did assign partial credit to the midterm and our quiz from last week. Actually, the quiz from last week, I haven't gone in. This is from quiz 3. I'm getting ready to grade quiz 4 today. I will be assigning partial credit on it. That's always going to happen. So after the due date, I go in and assign partial credit, which means your score may go up. I also check to see that you've done your work, and if you haven't submitted your work, your score may go down. And so there will be a news item here about week 5 as soon as you open this up, and well, once I get it posted. If you're seeing this video, there's a news item about week 5. Let's go ahead and go into our content and see what we have going on. I like going to these weekly updates. Again, this is where we see the videos. Week 2 was a very important video because I walked you through how to go back and see correct answers on your assignments. So if you haven't looked at that yet, you should. I like in here this schedule to print. This gets me an overview of what's going on in the course. Here we are. It is Monday, February 17th. When I'm filming this, we are beginning Module 5. We have our typical schedule. Last week I did push the homework 7 due date back, if you caught that. But we have homework 9 due Thursday, homework 10 due Saturday, the quiz and the lab due Sunday. And that's been our typical schedule, although we do have some hiccups. Next week will not be a typical schedule. We're going to squeeze in Module 6 to give you a little bit more time for Module 7 before our final exam. So 2 weeks from today is our last week of class. All right, along that line, you can always go to your grades. I did finish up your midterm grades at the beginning of last week. I think it was the end of the week before, and they are posted. Hopefully yours is better than mine. These are just things that I have played with. So here are your grades. Any messages that I have left, any feedback I've left should be listed here as well. Please keep an eye on these and make sure they're showing correctly. If something is not showing correctly, please point it out to me. These bars indicate you can see the statistics, the class statistics. It went out of screen here, but like for quiz 2, the class average was 88%. So you can always see the class averages on all of these. You can see the class average on the midterm. Let's see what that was. I'm sure I've looked at it. Yeah, it was an 86% was the class average. So again, you can kind of see where you stand with regard to the class. Most people are doing great. If I get to assign all A's at the end of the semester, I'm not going to be upset about that. All right, so back here in content, that is your starting place each week. We are in Module 5. We're doing electronic structure, Lewis structures, and shapes, kind of long. We have our typical modules, submodules, our reading and videos, homework and quiz, and our lab. These are set to start sporadically this week. I've got a few more checks that I have to do. In your reading and videos, here is your textbook assignment. All right. And I do point out, there are questions and answers at the end of each chapter, but we are skipping around a little bit in Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. So please pay attention to which sections you're responsible for. You can always read more than this, but the homework questions and the quiz questions and the exam questions are going to come from the sections that I assign. Each of these is a clickable link to the actual textbook. and it is free online as a PDF. You can download the PDF. Everything is for free on this site. All right, let me go back to our thing. If you have any questions as you're working through any of the material, please don't bang your head more than about 10 minutes. And you can post on our discussion board. All right, I'm going to come back out here to the submodule. Again, we do have videos. We have Chapter 8 videos and Chapter 9 videos. Chapter 8 videos, Chapter 8, we're really only taking a snippet of that chapter. Chapter 9 is a little bit longer. Let me do point out that when you click into each of these, if you go ahead and click into where that you see them directly, sometimes there's a note, and you will see on these last two, they're a little bit longer than you actually have to learn for homework and quizzes and exams. And so I've made the note here. If you have any questions on that, please don't hesitate to ask. They do go into a little bit more detail toward the end that you're not going to be responsible for on your questions. All right, so your homework and quiz, typical schedule, homework 9, 10, and a quiz. The homework 9 is due, let me go back. Let me open that up. I like this. Yeah, it's not going to let me. Let me open that up. Here we go, one more time. I do like this printable schedule. I'm going to keep it handy. Your homework 9 is due on Thursday. Your homework 10 is due on Saturday. This has been the case all semester long, but let me point it out. It bears pointing out. Your homework doesn't close. So after the due date, you can still go in and practice it and finish it if you didn't get a chance to finish it, or start it if you didn't get a chance to start it. And you can always go back and see all of it. Remember that subsequent attempts only give you what you missed. You can go back and see all of it on our quizzes page. I walk you through this in the week 2 video, but let me do it here real quick. On your quizzes page, anything that you have attempted, everything is still open, but so you can start one even if it's past the due date. You won't get a grade, but you can do it for practice, and I strongly recommend it. But even after any attempt, if you click on that attempt, and then you might have to click on it one more time, you can see it, and it does give you correct answers. This was the correct answer here, and I hadn't typed it in. All right, so just be aware that you can always go back and see what you've done and the correct answers by going to the quizzes page, and then on the quizzes page, clicking on your attempts. Again, hopefully you've got more attempts than me. You can do that on the labs. You can do that on the homework. You can do that on the midterm. I don't have an attempt on the midterm. All right. This one did close. This one did close. I think everybody got an attempt, though. All right. Let me go back to content. All right. All right. So reading and videos are there. Get started on those as soon as possible. Homework's going to open up shortly. I've got a few more checks to do. Here is your quiz. Please don't open it up. I would do my best to make 10s out of 10s on the homeworks before I opened up a quiz. I would make sure I've got all of the correct answers before I start on the quiz. You can use your books and notes on the quiz, which means if you've worked out all the homework problems and you have that work sitting right there in front of you during the quiz, it's going to help you, especially if that work is correct. So make sure you've got the right answers before you take the quiz. Make sure you've got a blank sheet of paper to start your work for the quiz. We have drawings this week, not so much calculations. This got a little bit of calculations at the very beginning of homework 9, but homework 10 has a lot of drawings you have to make me. So as you do the homework, draw those out. I'm going to ask you to share some of those on the discussion board to make sure that we're doing them right. The quiz, you're going to have to make some drawings for me. The lab is the drawing. So the lab, again, it's not open yet. I've got some more checks to make. The lab is on our Chapter 9. Chapter 9. This material is what your lab is on. So make sure that you've started on this before you attempt the lab. So there will be a pre-lab and a lab report like there was last week. And there was some confusion. This is the first time we were doing it, and I'm tweaking my instructions. as I'm going to get started grading the lab from last week, and I'm going to look at where you struggled with the instructions on the pre-lab versus the lab. And so I'm going to see if I can make those better for this week. But you will have a pre-lab, and you will get a small grade for the pre-lab. It will be included in your lab report grade. So if you do horrible on the pre-lab, it's not going to knock your grade too much. The point is to get the correct answers before doing the lab report so that you maximize your points on your lab grade this week. So there is a pre-lab. You're going to need to check your answers before you do your lab report to make sure that you can get your lab report answers correct. And so we've got that same setup. I don't know if we'll do this again next week. I don't think we're going to do this again next week, but we are doing it this week because you have to get this part right in order to get that part right. And so I'm trying to set that up so that you have a better chance of getting a better grade on your lab report. So that's what we've got going on this week. This is Module 5, Week 5. We have Week 6 and Week 7, and then our final exam is during Week 7, just kind of sneaking ahead. Again, pretty typical week. We've got the whole week to finish everything. Next week is a little bit abbreviated. We only have one homework assignment and one quiz. Then we're going to jump into Module 7. We've got a lab report due on Sunday as usual. We've got a lab report due fairly quickly because of final exam coming up. It's going to be a shorter lab report. And then we have a homework and a quiz due right before the final exam opens. You're going to be reviewing all of your homeworks and all of your quizzes and your midterm exam before you sit down to take that final exam. You get to use your books and your notes. I strongly recommend that you organize your notes and make yourself a page to look at, because if everything's on a page, then you're not flipping through a bunch of stuff as you go through and sit down to take that final exam. You can't use other people. You can't use random stuff on the internet. You can't Google search everything. You're going to mess up if you Google search everything because I make up stuff. But you can use your material on this exam. And so you want to make sure that your material is organized as we get there. Good time to start thinking about that. All right, guys, hang in there. You got it. Week 5, moving right along. We'll see you next week.